So thank you, everybody. My name is Luigi Manca, and I'm partner of Fair Dynamics. And okay, so Fair Dynamics is a Milan-based company, and it's a general consulting company with the distinction aspect of simulation modeling. So we try to put in every project that we do a simulation aspect. And all the projects are mainly based using AnyLogic as our reference platform. As John said, we are also the Italian distributor for AnyLogic. And as you can see from our main customer, we are mainly involved in supply chain and manufacturing problems. So for instance, for GlaxoSmithKline, we develop different simulator for vaccine supply chains in order to understand strategic planning for inventories, for distribution, and taking into account all the complexity that the vaccine has behind. For instance, the expiry, the quality deviations, all the cold chain aspects. So all this complexity are well managed by using simulator that we developed. Other two are Trenitalia and RFI. One is Trenitalia is the provider of the train in Italy. And for them, we develop different projects related to optimization in layout for the maintenance job shops, or marketing and having other about that. For FI, for instance, we provide a project for life cycle asset management. RFI is the owner of the infrastructure, so they own the railways and they have to maintain it. So we develop different agent-based modeling in how to predict the maintenance and how to optimize the mission for maintenance in every part of the grid. And for instance, we also develop different projects for airports. This one is one of the airports that we is a customer of ours. And we usually do seasonal planning for them. So in terms of understanding the right sizing of resources needed to do the aviation and non-aviation activities. So, and architects instead is a kind of different customer for us. Is a new and is a Milan-based architect firm. Is very young and is well specialized in galleries and art foundation. And so for them, this is the project. So for architects, we help them in developing the Ametria project, where Ametria was the name of this art exhibition in Athens, in the Benaki museum. When architects come to us, they had a specific objective that was given them by the art foundation that was responsible for to establish the art exhibition. For instance, the Deste Foundation asks them, in the person of the people in charge of the artist, in charge of managing all the things related to the exhibition, to create something new. So the art show should have been an artwork itself. Does it mean that they want to create an astonishing layout with different artworks to be placed all in the limited space that they have, and they wanted to provide a sort of maze where people get lost inside. And moreover, one funny thing is that they asked to the architecture firm to provide a layout in which the main masterpiece promoted in the poster and in the brochure of the exhibition were hidden and were the most difficult to find. Okay, so what we did, they had to try different layouts in order to understand, anyway, the critical areas, so in terms of density, in terms of how they visit the artworks, and have a good saturation in all the layouts, also because they had to respect regulation for emergencies. So they have to respect all these things, so people cannot get lost in the real terms. So otherwise, could be dangerous. And we measure also the. We add a layer inside of the agent about the mood of the visitors. So we had to understand how the satisfaction is measured in terms of how many artworks they had seen or not. So this some more in detail, some requirements. So the gallery layout should be convinced as a maze. Visitors enter into the gallery without knowing the art exhibition and knowing the position of the artwork, so they didn't have a map about that. So they move along in the gallery trying to collect the greater number of artworks that they can and trying to looking at the masterpiece. They can group together, they can, as a for instance, a family, they can move together into the gallery. And for instance, the last thing is that if you increase your dissatisfaction because you cannot find what you see, you try to go out as soon as possible. So after you are moving 1 hour or 2 hours inside the gallery, you go out and you don't see what you are looking for, you go out. So these are some elements that we consider. So for us, everything in the models were agents. For instance, the artworks and the masterpiece were agents that can connect to people in order to being collected as an artwork scene. You cannot connect more than a certain number of people around one artwork, not to be. Otherwise, you have not seen it. And masterpiece, for instance, has particular behavior because there are some masterpieces that can be seen only if the visitor is in a certain position of the gallery. So, I don't know, you can see one artwork in the left only if you are on the opposite side of the gallery and if you look in a certain position in a certain direction. Okay, but the main agent that we developed was the visitor, for instance, in which we combine, and this is why AnyLogic was very useful, because we combine the pedestrian model already built in AnyLogic and an agent-based approach. And this is a unique feature of AnyLogic that helped us in developing the project very quickly, because we didn't lose time in developing something related to movement, related to avoiding people, avoiding walls, and everything else that is already well done by using the pedestrian library. And we concentrate our effort just in creating the agent-based model behavior of every single visitors. So, and these are some points for the visitors. So the visitors join a group, as I said before. While moving, they establish connection with artworks. But if there are too many visitors connected, they separate and go away. They cannot view some artworks if they are behind the walls and so on. The same what I said before for masterpiece. And we track about the physical state, because in some layouts they didn't take care about the chair to rest, because the maze-like layout was take more than 2 hours in sometimes to be visited. So if you have old people, you have to take some more space to have chairs and to have place to rest. And the level of dissatisfaction. All these parameters were taken out from different surveys that the customer, the architect's firm, take in different exhibitions. And we collect all this information and we put inside the model in order to get all the threshold for example, for the dissatisfaction for the resting limits. And last but not the least, since our customer is an art foundation, we had to take particular attention to the look and feel of the model and to the aspect how the model was. So we take the occasion to create a non-library, a custom-built library of different components and different graphical units, elements that try to be more, I can say, modern and compliant to what you can call the Google material design. If you know that, Google is developing a very good guides in order to how to design application, how to have a good feelings for application and inputs. And so this is what we try to replicate in our libraries. And this is done by, again, using the possibility of AnyLogic, of embedding other Java class, other Java code inside the application. So it's a layer built over the AnyLogic, graphics. So these are some elements that we develop. So a new simplified toolbar, some different aspect for buttons, some outputs, some date picker, and I don't know, an input plot that is very important, a dynamic input plot, because we use that we developed for this project, but we are using a lot. When you have to input data related to graph, you can just drag a line, and you are not well, I don't know, you are not, I can say, anyway, I will explain later. Sorry. My Italian came out. So, some conclusion. What we learn. So we learn to use simulation behind the user application fields that we are confident to work with. And we try to improve the user experience and the input using this our library. And so we develop a new visual indicators and new visual approach. And this is what we learn. But from the customer perspective, we provided for him a good layout, and they take out the quantitative results that demonstrate what their work was, like to have a good balance area saturation, best location for artworks, and a good sizing, and also good location for emergency exit and other things. So this is what we did. I had some output animation, but since we are Crazy Italian, we try to do an on-the-fly demonstration, and there is Roberto, that is my colleague, and is the responsible for the development of this application, and we will try to demonstrate on the fly. Sometimes, hopefully. Okay, so this is the splash screen of the application that is running. Okay, so this is the settings page where you can set different parameters from the more general, for instance, the opening time and the closing time of the art exhibition. Some parameters related how many times to be spent for artworks, for the masterpiece to be collected, and maximum time spent per area. And on the right, we have, for instance, a dynamic input graph in which you can drag all the shape that you want for your curve. So if you don't have a specific curve, but you have some empirical data, you can just use that and avoid to write down all the data related to that. So just graphical. And if you go on, Roberto, you have just visitors, for instance, a percentage of visitor interested, or a percentage of extra time if the visitor are interested. that would spend inside the gallery. Then you can just run the model, and you can see a first page related to the animation. You will see people entering into the art show, and on the left you have all the description related to the artworks. You see, people are just starting to collecting all the artworks, and they are changing colors. The blue one are the masterpiece, and people go through and try to complete all the gallery. So on the left you have a collapsible legend for every single artworks, in which you can click on it and highlights the position of the artworks. Okay, then you can navigate with the navigation control, or you're just dragging the mouse and moving about that. And for sure, you have the ability of switching on the density map already provided with AnyLogic that is very useful in order to understand the saturation of the entire area. Then you can go to statistics and see more in-depth statistics, for instance, general, so current time, how people enter in the gallery, people inside the gallery now, statistic distribution for groups and groups member, distribution time for people that spend in the gallery, and more in details the sections. For instance, the gallery is divided in different sections. You can highlight it, and you can see all the information related, how many artworks of that section are collected, how many visitors are inside, the mean time related to that, and so on. Again, step into, you can see inside every single section, you have the statistic for every single artworks with the description on it. The masterpiece, the same. Okay, with labels related to description. Visitors, general view of visitors, so how many are in the gallery, the mean of artwork collected, the time spent, and the length of the distance covered by every single visitors. And again, and more details, that is the pathway. So for every single visitor, we create a pathway, a unique pathway that is useful also for the documentation that the Art Foundation wants to provide for the exhibition. That is 1,000 different booklets related to the art show with different pathways that will be printed. And you can print and get it out, and because they want to put in the book. So, and finally, just one thing related to the evacuation, the possible emergency evacuation. So if you just click a button, you can see. I don't know if people are inside. Yes, still moving. Okay, you can see the total time spent from a fire alarm up to going out to different emergency taxis that are in the gallery. Every single agent decides to move to the doors that it's close to him. And you can see different colors should be related to when the emergency starts, where it is, and which is the doors that he chose. By and large, the last, anyway. Yeah, you can see when it's red, so the emergency started here, and he decided to go out. We provide also the customer a Monte Carlo simulation for that in order to understand, to try different situations. That's all, and it worked without bugs. Thanks. Yes, I think yes. We are now trying to with them to for next exhibition. with the Art Foundation, we try to understand how to measure and how to measure the real data in respect of the simulated data. And we would like to use some technologies, for instance, the Bluetooth technology that you have in your smartphone can be a good way to track you inside the gallery and see if all these things are good. Yes, could be, to refine the result for sure.
And then, I'm just curious, what was the advantage of making the artworks agents themselves? Because they're not doing any behavior. Was it easier for the artwork agent to find the visitor than the visitor to find
No, it was just related to how many people are connected to that, in order to see if you are a crowd of people in front of an artwork, it is possible that you cannot see that. So if you are 10 people in front, you do not collect that. So it's overcrowded and you move away. This is why we model also artworks and masterpieces like agents. And then to collect all the information easier. Not too difficult, please.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a very interesting presentation. How easy is it to change the layouts and, like, for example, in the next exhibit, do 2 or 3 alternatives and maybe decide different arrangements? How easy is it for you to do an analysis for the client for that?
What do you mean? How we test different layouts?
Where you strategically place your main masterpiece items. I mean, can you give them a couple of alternatives and tell them which one you...
Yes. Okay. For us, they are agents. The architect firm proposed us different layouts, and we just move them.
Okay.
And the model is built to be automatically rebuilt all the statistics and everything. So an artworks know in the section where it is, and so we collect all the right statistics, and so they tested it.
Okay. Thank you.
We test about 5 or 6 layouts, something like that.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
You may have said this, so I hope I'm not repeating. But what did you find? As it is, it seems like a simulation of discovery with each client, but what do you find to be the principal factors for determining where art should be placed? And second question is, what was the most difficult part in building for you? What was really difficult in building your whole modeling paradigm with your new library and so on? What was the most challenging part?
Starting from the first one, we noticed that the main the fact was that the area was quite narrow, and so the main things that we have to take into account was the overcrowding of certain areas. So they decided to concentrate more artworks in less space in order to concentrate visitors and not going through and having a real overcrowding while people were moving in that. So the first version of the layout, first versions of the layout were more we distribute artworks for all over the gallery. But then they decide to concentrate in order to make people not to work too much and maybe stay in a place and concentrate on that. This is what we did. And for what our library is concerned, I think the most critical part was the input dynamic graph. We spent a lot of time in that, and we are quite happy to what we provided, because it was something very useful for many projects that we are providing to customers. So the ability of having an input and you draw the line in order to do that is very, very useful. Yeah, both graph and lines, and then you can using the right button of the mouse, you can decide to put a particular value if you are not just want to have I can say an approximate shape, but if you want real value, you can also add it, and so it's quite easy.
This incredibly rich simulation for this one customer, and you kind of touched on it a second ago, but if you don't mind, how many man hours did it take to create something like that? And I guess you already said you're planning on
This
releasing
is something you have to ask to Roberto, but I think it's not. This is it was quite easy for the logics, because the pedestrian library in AnyLogic was very powerful, and that does to reduce the man hours in that. We dedicate more of the time, and I think it was by and large 10 man day, 15 man days, something like that, to develop the library, to start in developing the library, and to spend time how to get the look and feel great. But it was a small project in respect to all the other very complicated projects that we are used to manage.
So in your model, did you consider the differences between different arts and also visitors? Because they're not homogeneous.
Not that.
So you consider everything?
Yeah, we provide distribution, statistical distribution for every single art, but we didn't know exactly the difference between an artwork and another. So we decided to put just a statistical distribution inside.
Right.
And
so other than the master versus the
oh yes, for sure for the master that are 6.
Okay. Okay. Thank
but
you.
for the other, no.
Do you see any problems of people going back to a section? Let's say they look at section 1, and then they go to section 5, and then they go to section 1 again?
Yeah, they could do that. And we developed a parameter that is how a person is interested in visiting the gallery. So you can be a fan of art, so you can go through and try to collect as much as possible. So you want to go out until you see everything, and so you are moving around up and down the gallery, or you are just an occasional visitors, and so you just go through the entire the whole section, starting from the entrance up to the exit, just looking around and trying to find something, but without looking for. So just moving around and looking the gallery. Great. Thank you very much for your patience.